Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. We invite coaches, athletes, and industry leaders in our community who are willing to open up about their setbacks and successes to educate and inspire our listeners. I'm your host, David Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have Fabian Hambüchen. Fabian is an absolute legend within the gymnastics world. He's done basically everything there is to do within the sport, competed in multiple world championships, competed in 4 Olympic Games. He's won a medal of every color, and the gold that he eventually got at his last Olympic Games in 2016 is a special story that we're excited to share with you guys. After retiring from the sport, Fabian has now transitioned into the CrossFit world and is competing in the same type of events that many of our listeners are competing in as well, so it's cool to see another gymnast transition into CrossFit. We hear a little bit about his story between him and his dad, who was also his coach throughout his entire career, and talk about that dynamic a little bit, as well as a recent injury, a torn ligament that happened fairly recently that he's overcoming right now. I am a huge fan of Fabian. I've known him for almost 2 decades now and is one of my closer friends within the gymnastics community. He's an amazing guy, an amazing ambassador for the sport, and I hope you guys enjoy this one. Fabian, what's up, my man? It's awesome to have you on the Power Monkey Podcast. It's been such a long time since we saw each other in person, so thank you for taking the time to meet with me and Chad today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you guys.
How you doing?
Well, pretty good over here. Just the lockdown is getting a little bit easier. So our CrossFit box just opened this Monday.
Nice.
Again. They had to close since November. So was today my first training session again in the box. So that was a lot of fun, and I feel pretty good.
Excellent. And today's kind of an interesting day too, being that, this is going to come out probably in a week or so, but today is the start of the Open. They're doing the Open announcement today for 21-1. Are you participating in the Open?
Unfortunately not. I got injured on my knee in December. I tore my ACL. So I had surgery 3 months ago. A little bit sad about not being able to compete at the Open, but otherwise I can check things out because this is a new sport for me.
Yeah.
And I want to be in the Open next year for sure.
Yeah, so I want to get into the CrossFit side of things, but our listeners need to know who you are. You know what I mean? Our listeners are a majority coming from fitness world, CrossFit world, and I want them to know how badass you are with your background. And, I've known you for many years now, and I've been able to see the success firsthand that you've had in the sport of gymnastics and how much of an amazing ambassador you are for the sport. But I want to just kind of talk a little bit about your Olympic success and what it's been like to, compete in 4 Olympic Games, and start with that first one in Athens. Athens, what, you were 16 or 17?
16.
16 years old. So if anyone goes and finds a video of you competing at the Olympic Games in Athens at 16 years old, you look probably 12 years old. Was that
exactly?
you look like a little kid. I remember seeing you and being like, this is amazing that this kid is out there competing. You made high bar finals. You kind of entered the world stage saying, I'm going to be here for the foreseeable future and I'm going to be a force. It was amazing. You had your glasses on, kicking ass, and being at that first Olympic Games. What was that experience like, being 16 years old on the world stage and making something like high bar finals and all around finals?
Yeah, it was just insane. Of course. I mean, I had this dream to go to Olympics and to get Olympic champion when I was 8 years old. I remember watching the Olympics in Atlanta, 96, where the German guy, Andreas Wecker, won gold on high bar. So after that games, I told my mom I would go there and I want to win. And since then, that was my big dream. So when I entered the Olympic Games in Athens 2004, of course, it was like the first step of the dream came true to be an Olympian. And with 16, I wasn't nervous at all. I was just excited. I was just happy to be there and didn't think too much. You know how it is. Like when you get older, you start to think more and more from time to time, and it's getting harder to just focus on the main thing. And with 16, I was just happy to be there and just having fun, going out there, competing with my boys. And as you mentioned, like with the glasses, that was the funny story because usually I was using contacts. but I had 3 or 4 pairs in preparation, but all were broken down right before the competition. So I had to take the glasses, but I was used to it, because my first Worlds was the year before, 2003, in Anaheim, California.
Yep.
I was 15 and I was using my contacts there. So usually I wanted to look different in the first games, but I didn't care. I mean, it's just, all I was thinking about was gymnastics.
Absolutely. I mean, it made for a lasting memory for sure. And, one of the things that is also really unique about your training experience is your relationship with your father, who's been your coach. Has he been your coach throughout your entire career, or was that something that kind of came to be later on as you guys, became more of a national team competitor?
The first year when I started with gymnastics, I was 4 years old. I had a different coach. He was just had a group of little children, like 3 or 4 years old guys. But then he quit after a year, and then there was this big question: what are we going to do with these little boys? They are 4 or 5 years old. And my dad was looking for some talent, and he said, okay, Fabian could be a talent, but at this time it didn't look like that. I was the guy who was jumping around all the time, jumping into the pit, was a little, just looking for chaos doing there in the gym, and I wasn't really stiff in the beginning. So, but he said, okay, I want to take him. He has fun, like doing gymnastics, and that was the best decision he could make, because really fast I wanted to be better than the older guys, because in my gymnastics group there were guys like my brother, who's 4 years older than me, and I wanted to catch up with them pretty fast. So that was my biggest motivation. So and really fast I got better than them, and I just felt happy to be there. And of course with my dad it wasn't easy all the time, because if he's gonna to correct you, you feel like it's a personal thing. It's more like critics, and not like just the usual coaches telling you what to do better. And you know it, or you both know it, when you're working with a coach for so many years, and he says maybe the same things all day, you get annoyed of that. But if another coach is saying the same thing, you take it a completely different way. Sure. So that was sometimes kind of difficult, but the main important thing was that we both had the same goal, to get to the Olympics and to win. And that helped us always to get together again after a big fight or whatever. And at the end, we handled it very well, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting aspect of, the parent-athlete relationship. We've seen it a lot, on the U.S. side. I don't know how often that happens with your colleagues on the German side, but, we have Nastia and her father, and Chelsea and her father, and Sasha, Alex, who from the men's side with his father. And we see that in a lot of cases with athletes that have had a parent coach them to a pretty high level of success, the dynamics are always different. Sometimes the sport is left in the gym, and you come home and you say, we're not going to talk about what happened in the gym. We need to have separation between the gym and our family life. What were you guys like? Was it something that needed to be separated, or do you feel like you were able to bring the sport home with you? And was it something that you actually talked about even when you were home?
Our lives had been just about gymnastics all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So whenever we got home, gymnastics was still the topic to talk about, So my dad couldn't switch between coach and dad. Sometimes it was hard, because if we had a fight in the gym, we also had a fight at home. It just got better when I moved out from home when I was 21. And that was the time when you came to visit and you stayed at my apartment. So then it got better, because after practice, we went separately at home, and we got back together in the next morning and talked about things without so many emotions. Sure. So, but before I moved out, it was pretty hard, especially for my mom. It was pretty hard, She opened the door. She was happy her boys got back home for dinner, and we all were really angry and upset about each other. So she looked like that we had dinner in different rooms. So it was always pretty fun at home. But Yeah, I think it depends on everyone. You know, how you can handle this. If you can really switch between dad and coach or parent and coach. In my case, it didn't work.
Well, it didn't work, but it also led to extreme levels of success. So in that sense, it worked. And, you know, you ended up going from that fresh face in Athens to competing in Beijing and having some success on high bar finishing and with the bronze medal, which I'm sure you were happy to get a medal, but are still a little bit upset with the outcome, to London getting the silver. And then finally, the culmination of your career, I would assume, finally getting your gold medal, following in Vecker's footsteps, 2016. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like and what that meant for maybe you and your dad to be able to say we finally achieved what we set out to do all those years ago?
Well, this whole journey was just crazy. You know, starting off in Athens with 16 without any expectations and just going out there having fun, having great success at this time. And for Germany, it was really important because between Atlanta 96 and Athens 2004, there was like no success in men's gymnastics at all in Germany. So people had hope in me that I'm the one who is going to be successful for Germany in gymnastics for the next years. So I got world champion in 2007 in Stuttgart. You also competed there, Dave.
Oh yeah.
And you remember this crowd and everything over there.
Awesome.
That was just insane. So as the reigning world champion, I went to Beijing with the expectations of getting maybe 3 or 4 medals over there with a team and all around. On high bar. At the end, I had a really rough meet over there, different mistakes. I had a little injury on my finger. And then I came up with a bronze medal at the end. And I remember when I was on the podium for the medal ceremony and I was watching at my medal and was like, oh man, damn, that's the wrong color. But like a few days later, I really appreciated this medal as well. And then I was like, okay, let's work harder than ever to get this gold in London. So I went there the year before. I tore my Achilles tendon, so I had a rough season before, but then I got back in a good shape. And I went there and I got the silver, and I was really happy with this silver medal because my friend and colleague from Netherlands, Epke Zonderland, he was just better at this day. I mean, many people discuss about if his execution was good enough to get the gold or not compared to me, but at the end, he had a really high start value. He did a 3 releases connection, which no one else was doing before. So it was just spectacular and unique. Yeah. So I really think he's the real Olympic champion in London. And the plan was to retire from gymnastics after London. Because as I said, I tore my Achilles the year before, and I was like, okay, maybe my body is giving me any signs. So maybe you should listen to it and stop with gymnastics. I was 25 at this time. But then I felt so blessed and so happy after the silver medal. I was dreaming about this Hollywood story, like from bronze to silver to gold. And then I said to my dad, all right, let's go 4 more years. We have one mission to complete, you know. And that was the years between London and Rio that have been really rough with many little injuries. And I got older, and you know how it is when you get closer to 30. As a gymnast, everything gets harder in practice. All the recovery time needs longer. So it's just, it was crazy. And in the year of the Olympics in Rio, I just had so many problems with my shoulder. One tendon was almost tore. And we did a lot of treatment with the trainer and the doctors. So at the end, I was happy to go to Olympics. I couldn't do the all around anymore. I just focused on 3 events. And I just went there and said, like, come on, guy, that's your 4th Olympic Games. Just go there, relax, enjoy every moment, and don't expect too much. Because I knew there are so many guys, like from Japan, from the US, from Netherlands, who are at the same level. And I think that was the best attitude I could have for these Olympic Games, because I was really in a good shape. I was in a good mood, just relaxed and just had fun going out there. And when I got the gold medal, it was like the whole gymnastics life was right in front of my eyes, you know, just from the very beginning till the end. Like it was the yeah, like kind of a conclusion, like really the ending of my career with the biggest success ever, with my dream coming true. So that was just huge, and I was lost of words in the beginning of the medal ceremony or the days after. But right now, like 5 years later, it feels sometimes still unreal, but it's just awesome. It's so cool if you have the medal in the hand and you look like and you say like, yeah, I just uh, I just fulfilled all my dreams, and it's like you feel happy just about what you did, even if it wasn't that easy. I was struggling a lot, but it was a great time.
Yeah, that's really an incredible story, and I noticed that looking at your Instagram, going from 2004 with no medal to then a bronze and a silver and then a gold, just climbing up in that way. And I heard you mention a couple times about 2004. You said you were there, you were able to have a good time, you were having fun, and then it kind of came full circle. You just said that you were having fun again in 2016, and I wonder a couple things. How did that kind of mindset changed for you through the years, and did that negatively affect you through the middle Olympics that you went to, and then ultimately help you again when you maybe found a way to have fun again? Because I got to be honest, at my Olympic Games, the two that I went to, I didn't have that. I didn't appreciate enough just being there. It wasn't good enough for me to just be there. I wasn't able to have fun, so to speak, while I was competing. I didn't really get there until, a handful of years after going to my last Olympics and being able to use that better in competition. So, yeah, I'm just curious as to how that might have changed and affected you.
I started to work with a mental coach when I was 15, and the mental coach was my uncle, another family member. That was really good, and it was easy because my uncle knows me from the very beginning. So I didn't have to tell him how I am, what my character, my personality is about. So it was easy. He could read me without words. So we started right after my first Worlds in Anaheim. And as I said, in Athens, I was so young, I didn't think too much. I just wanted to go out there and compete and having fun. So then 4 years later, I was too much focused just on this gold medal. And I was like, okay, I'm the reigning world champion. I handled this pressure in Stuttgart, in my home country, in front of 9,000 people. So what should happen in Beijing and China? I was somehow too self-confident at this time. So I went out there and I just was thinking about the medal and not anymore about what I have to do to get the medal. It was gymnastics, what I prepared in training. So that was the biggest mistake I did in Beijing. So 4 years later, of course, I told myself, oh, you don't have to do the same thing in Beijing. But exactly this saying or this attitude was wrong again, because I compared myself with Beijing. I went mentally back to Beijing and had this negative vibes in me. So I messed up the all-around final where I also had a chance for a medal. And after that, I was really like kind of knocked out. I felt really bad. I had 5 days from the all-around final to the high bar final. And I remember like the first 2 days after the all-around final, I felt really weak. I felt tired. Practice went bad. So I met with my uncle and we were talking about, and at this time we found out that I was thinking too much about Beijing and not in the here and now and what I have to do. So, and when we figured out that this was the problem, I remember that the tears came into our eyes and it was like such a big block, which just got eliminated in my stomach. And then I went into the high bar final and I was completely like relaxed and I knew what to do. And then I got the silver. So the experience from Beijing helped me in London, not in the beginning, but after this, another bad experience, and especially in Rio, I definitely knew what to do, and I worked every single day with my mental coach just to focus on my gymnastics and especially on my high bar.
That's super interesting.
Yeah,
I
for
would say,
sure.
like, especially after Chad, last week our guest was Dawn Fletcher, who has she's a mental training coach. And, we were talking to her about some of the blocks that we had as athletes and some routes to go to become a little bit more mentally strong as an athlete. to be able to have, and we were just talking about like how it would have been amazing to be able to have some of these tools early on in our career that we, didn't learn until the last couple of years. To have someone at 15 years old and then that same mental coach stay with you throughout your entire career, would you say that was an extreme strength, almost like something that most athletes don't have available to them, that was allowed you to achieve some levels of success that you wouldn't have otherwise?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you can be in your best shape ever if you're physically you feel like 100%, but there's still like 2 or 3% left, which make the difference to all the other gymnasts in the competition. And that was just the mental thing. And we especially worked on that. Of course, he couldn't change my physical situation. He just changed my mind at the end, and that helped a lot. And he also, what is really interesting, he also worked with my dad, because the behavior of the coach can influence the gymnast, the athlete as well. If you feel like your coach is just nervous and just jumping around and just turning out crazy, you feel nervous as well, or it makes you even more nervous. So my dad was working with his older brother to get his nerves under control, so that we had a real good behavior and good situation all the time during competitions. I mean, I definitely saw when my dad was nervous as well, and he was excited. And sometimes I was like, "Dad, keep cool. We're gonna do this," It's like, and he said, like, "Hey, that's what I have to say to you." I said, "Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make this." And so that was a perfect match at the end, that we both worked mentally, and we both knew what to do in the important situations.
It's just such a great example of all the factors that really have to come together, especially, well, one, to make the Olympic team in the first place, but especially to take that further and be a medalist, and especially a gold medalist. I mean, most Olympians don't win medals, right? And then most medalists don't win a gold medal. So the fact that you won all colors and ultimately a gold medal, and all of the things that had to come together, a certain level of talent, an extremely high level of work ethic and relentlessness, and overcoming many obstacles, but also, like you said, even just the mindset and mental game of your coach, not just yourself, and all these factors that had to come together to make that happen. And it sounds like, well, I know that you were able to apply those things by 2016. But aside from the mental part and all that stuff that we talked about, I wonder if there's anything specifically outside of that you knew at that point or after the Olympics in 2016 that you wish you would have known all along, maybe back in 2004.
Well, I was just talking with my girlfriend about these things last weekend. We had a long ride down to France and South Germany, and we were talking about how I handled my nutrition and how I handled my strength training when I was younger. And that was a big point where I saw, or where I know right now, many things I could have done differently in the past. Because the hardest part for a gymnast is always to keep his weight. We always have to be as light as possible, but at the same time as strong as possible. So that's sometimes really hard to handle. I mean, in weightlifting, you have your weight classes, and you also have to handle this. You have to get stronger and still try not to get too heavy at the end. And so that was sometimes really hard for me, and I didn't really have someone by my side who was looking for that part, and also for the strength part. We were just doing it on our own. I remember when I've been to the University of Michigan in 2004 for training with Sam Mikulek, I saw the strength part and the strength circuits they were doing, and I just copied that one and took them to my place at home, and was just thinking about how I can put this circuit into my training. And so I just was doing it on my own. It was my own research, but at the same time, I didn't want to spend too much time for these things. I wanted to do my training and to do my recovery. Of course, I was a guy who was always thinking about gymnastics and never stopped with that. But I had no no fun like going into the kitchen and spending a lot of hours to cook the right things. I wanted to have it really easily and fast, but that also meant that it was like always the same during the week, and I always felt like there's a hole in my stomach after dinner. So that was a bad feeling to fight against this feeling and not to go again to the fridge and eat something you shouldn't eat, you know. So right now I know how to handle this better. So that would be awesome to know earlier when I was younger, but well, at the end it worked out.
Yeah, at the end it worked out for sure. And saying you know how to handle that better now, but of course, probably for you in your life and doing CrossFit and stuff like that, it's even a little bit different. I'm sure you're handling it different. You probably go back to the fridge for a second or third time at night if you still feel hungry. I'm not sure. How does that work for you now that you're doing CrossFit? Are you actually trying to gain more weight?
Not on purpose. I mean, right. Of course, when I started with CrossFit, I gained a lot of weight. Compared to my last Olympics, it's like 10 kilograms more. Mm-hmm. What is that in pounds?
22 pounds.
Oh, yeah. So that's a lot. But it was some more muscles on my upper body, but most of it on my legs. Because as a gymnast, usually you have like skinny legs. But when I started to do weightlifting and doing squats and deadlifts and whatever, my legs were like exploding a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I remember my brother, he said like, "Oh, you got a real big gorilla butt," you know. So I was like, yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
good
of course,
for weightlifting, good for CrossFit. And we've been trying to get weight on Dave's butt and legs for how long has it been? Almost 10 years now,
10
right,
years
Dave?
now,
so
yeah. 10
we're
years.
gonna have to get some pointers from Fabian on how he did that.
My legs are perpetually chicken legs.
Yeah, lucky guy in some way.
But it's good. It's good for me to be able to keep my planche in place, you know. Yeah. That's what it's good for.
Exactly. That's what's getting really hard for me to do these specific gymnastic skills, you know. But yeah, I didn't look too much for my nutrition when I started with CrossFit, but I felt like I cannot live without carbs at the evening for dinner. So I started to eat more and I gained weight, but I felt like I gained a lot of muscles, not too much fat, a little bit more fat, of course, because when we were gymnasts, we were so skinny and just really dry. And but like for the last month, and especially when I met my girlfriend, we started to eat better and healthily. And she's into CrossFit for like 6 years now, so she has a lot of experience how to eat well and to eat right for the training. So she helps me a lot with that.
Good to have someone like that around for sure. It makes it a little bit easier, can work together on it. But talking about CrossFit now, what do you envision for yourself in CrossFit in the future? Is it just a lifestyle for you, something to keep you in sport and moving and having fun, or do you have other goals in mind with it?
Well, it's a funny story how I got into CrossFit, because I remember it was last year in February. I had a photo shoot for a sponsor in a CrossFit box, but we just used the location of this box. It had nothing to do with CrossFit at all. It was a supplement sponsor. So we just did some handstands, some dips and whatever. And I was about to do an obstacle run with different former athletes I knew. We wanted to do an obstacle run, like a 5 miles run with 30 different obstacles, like kind of mud race and whatever. Mm-hmm. So, and I was thinking about how could maybe CrossFit or this kind of training help me to get ready and to get in good shape for that. So when I got home, I was looking, where's the next CrossFit box nearby? So, and I had found one like just 15 minutes far away from here. So I went over to them and just told them, here, I want to get ready for this obstacle run. They said, yeah, no problem. Just come over, just enter to our classes. So, and then I remember the first 2 weeks, I went to every class every single day. No day off, no rest, because I had so much fun doing it. And when you come from gymnastics and you start with CrossFit workouts, after every workout, after every Metcon, you feel like you have to throw up, like every time. So, and after 2 weeks, I remember the coach came over to me and said, like, are you not doing any rest day? I was like, yeah, maybe I should do this because my body is so sore, but it's so much fun to, yeah, have this experience with the new sport. So that was the beginning of falling in love with the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about, oh, there are competitions. And I felt like, oh, I'm a competitive guy. What is it about? Then they told me, yeah, where you want to go. Then I saw the CrossFit Games. I was like, maybe not to the CrossFit Games because I still want to have like a usual life and not just focus on the sport. But are there any other competitions? And they said, yeah, we have a league in Germany. We have it's called Fitness Bundesliga. It's a league for CrossFit boxers to compete as a team. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And it's like the 4 best guys of each box and the 4 best women of each box, they compete in a team. So we had like these trials or these qualification workouts last, what was it, August, I think. And I didn't get qualified. I didn't make the team. I wasn't good enough at this time. So, but then I felt like, okay, next year I wanna be in the team. So unfortunately, I got injured last December. So right now I cannot do any competitions. I just try to get back into CrossFit and do my rehab. But at the same time, especially with this time to recover right now, I started to think about where I want to go. And as I said, my girlfriend is into CrossFit for many years. She's also a CrossFit coach, and she was like, "You have good situation. You can go pretty far in CrossFit." And then we started to think about why not going to the CrossFit Games as a master, because I turn 35 next year. So that's maybe the big goal. I'm not sure right now, honestly, if I want to do this, but because I think too much about my knee right now and to get healthy again. But when it's back to 100%, I think I could make this. I need to learn a lot, and especially in weightlifting, I have to learn a lot. But I think that's a goal I can focus on.
Yeah, saying you have a lot to learn, and specifically you mentioned weightlifting there. I don't get to talk about weightlifting much on this podcast. Dave takes over and talks about gymnastics all the time. But you talked about you weren't in the top 4 of your gym, which is really insane to think about. Someone, an athlete at your elite level. But it makes sense to me as well because, going to the Olympics twice and being a really good athlete, people just assume that you're going to be good at CrossFit, or you would be able to be at the top of your gym or at the top of your box. And for me, I still get beat in WODs by stay-at-home moms all the time. That's one of the cool things about CrossFit. And Dave beats me all the time too, even in weightlifting workouts. But I wonder, what is your biggest weakness? Obviously, you've got the gymnastics part down. That's easy. I'm sure you can run through those and just go nonstop. But is there any component of gymnastics that is tough for you to sustain for a long period of time, for a lot of reps? Or is there anything that you struggle with, like running is my worst, or is it weightlifting?
I think the endurance part is good to work on, and you have a good progress really fast. But the worst thing for me is my front rack position. And I don't know if it's a specific gymnast problem, but I think we have a huge lat, which is really strong and really tight. And that is really hard to get in the right front rack position for me. So everything which included a good front rack, like thrusters or all the cleans and clean and jerk stuff, that was horrible in the beginning for me. And also like the legs. My legs were too weak. So that's why we started a lot to work on my strength on my legs. And of course, we started to do specific stretching exercises for my front rack position. It got better, especially now during the lockdown, during my injury, because I had time to work on that. But I think as soon as my front rack position is that good, I can be really, really strong, really fast, because that makes a huge difference to how I handled it before. When I did my first weightlifting class, I think my front rack was like this, so my underarm was just straight. So I couldn't really hold the barbell in a clean position. So that was tough at the beginning. Now it's getting better, but this is I think that's my biggest weakness.
I think we saw some similar stuff with like Jake and Steve, Legendre and Dalton, right? Some of the other guys that from the U.S. team that have come out to camp that have transitioned to some weightlifting stuff. Same thing.
Yeah, I talked to Jake about this, exactly about this, and he told me how to stretch and whatever.
Good.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting those specific areas because, of course, anyone thinks gymnast, they think mobility, and you guys are extremely mobile. As much as I hate to admit it, you guys are statistically the most flexible and mobile athletes in the Olympics, and unfortunately, weightlifters are second to you guys. I don't know if you knew that little statistic there, Fabian, but there are a few areas there, specifically with the barbell, that guys specifically, male gymnasts specifically, do have a hard time. And I was really surprised how many of you guys I've come across that struggle with the bar overhead. Dave, you don't. You have a great overhead position. You have a great front rack position. So it's interesting just to think about why and all that stuff. But certainly, Fabian, if you're interested, we could certainly give you some recommendations to help you out there with that front rack.
Absolutely, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we're just trying to get Fabian to come out to camp. I mean,
that's right.
We're saying, like, I was talking to him last week and saying, like, we need you to come out to camp just to be able to experience it and see what it's all about. But now that we know that you're actually into CrossFit as much as you are, it's a no-brainer. We have a great community of masters athletes that come out to camp. It's kind of the place to be, especially if you're 35 older looking to go to the games. It's a great spot. So you are coming to camp. Maybe not this spring, but definitely by next fall, you'll be with us for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, we would love to come over. Just right now with this pandemic, we cannot do this, but hopefully, when is it, in October or November?
Yeah, the next one will be, we have one in May, and then the following will be first week October. So
yeah, that would be awesome
for that one.
Yeah, appreciate this invitation. Thanks.
Well, speaking about Power Monkey Camp and our situation of taking our athletic experiences and abilities and translating that into coaching and teaching others, do you have any visions of that for yourself? Is coaching something that you like or want to do? I mean, maybe it's not, but certainly with the knowledge that you have, and even just hearing you talk about your experiences and all the things that you learned on the mental and physical side, if you did have that passion and urge to coach, you could certainly point many athletes in the right direction.
Yeah, I think coaching is my future. I still love this sport. It's like the biggest passion I ever had. And right now I'm not coaching at all. Sometimes I go into the gym and help out a little bit and coach for fun. But I think this is my future. Maybe also maybe it could be a thing in the US. You never know. I wanted to study in the US when I was 19 or whatever. And but then they had this rule that if you are a professional athlete and you earn the money with your sport, you're not able to get a scholarship for the university. Yeah. And that was the thing in my case. So I couldn't go there for a scholarship, and I decided not to go to the US, but I always loved being there. And I'm still in touch with so many guys over there from different universities. So I could imagine to work as a coach at a university or also have my own gym. I'm not sure yet, and that's the good part of being successful for so many years. I don't have to hurry up now to find the right job. I can take some time, just look around, step into different jobs and see what I like or what I don't like. So, but now I retired in the end of 2017. And now I think I really feel like I want to be into gymnastics. That's the thing I have fun with. And I love coaching and talk about gymnastics and also these mental experiences I made. So, I think coaching should be my future.
And you feel like that's with gymnastics specifically? Anything within the CrossFit community?
Right now, I don't have too much knowledge about CrossFit, especially like the typical CrossFit stuff and also weightlifting. I do understand many things and the techniques, but for sure, I mean, would be possible to do like gymnastics classes in CrossFit, of course. But what I was talking about is just like being a gymnastics coach.
Sure.
Now, you speak to your dad about those kind of things and say like, hey, this is something that I envision as a career move, being that you guys still live fairly close together, right? You're still in close contact with him. Have you spoken with him about potentially taking a career in that same direction?
Yeah, we talked about that, and sometimes he was positive with that, and he agreed. He was like, yeah, that's a great thing, and he wanted me to step into his feet. But sometimes he was like, yeah, but we had so many fights with the federation, with so many different guys. You don't have to experience that again. And so sometimes we talked about that, but at the end he said like, you have to listen to your heart, and my heart is just beating for gymnastics, you know. So, and maybe it's a different situation if I would coach in the US instead in Germany, but I'm not sure with that. The important thing is that I really know what my future should be about, and that is gymnastics coaching. And yeah, I think my dad would be proud. I mean, he retired last year, but he's still going to the gym every single day. He goes there. He has no other hobbies, you know. He just goes to the gym and work with the kids, and he would love to have a little children group again in gymnastics, but his body is so sore and so damaged after so many years coaching me that he couldn't do any handling with the kids, you know, learning some flips or whatever. So he's just helping out, talking to the other coach, gives them many advice and stuff. So if I would work with him together, we would be a good team, I think, a good coaching team. But we have different views of some techniques, because, you know, Dave, gymnastics developed so fast also with the techniques of twisting and whatever, especially because the equipment got better and better in the last 10 years. So we have different opinions of learning the technique. So maybe that could be sometimes a fight between us in the gym. But well, it's sometimes the problem of the old guys. They don't develop. You know, they stay the same, and they want to give you the same technique as 20 years before, which is sometimes good, but in some cases you should just try to go with the flow.
Right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I'm curious from a technical standpoint, you know, we always like to touch on technique here. And is there a particular type of gymnastics that you try to emulate the way that you maybe teach, or the way you tried to do your own gymnastics? Like any one style or gymnast that you tried to emulate or that you looked up to while you were training from a technical standpoint?
I think like Vitaly Sherbo and Alexei Nemov, two Russian guys, they had like the best techniques, but yeah, they were successful in the 90s or the beginning of the 2000s. So the technique of them is still, I think, up to date. It's still awesome in different ways. How to learn a round off and a back handspring and stuff. That didn't change. But like many gymnasts, just doing all their stuff on floor just out of a round off, and don't use the back handspring anymore. I use it to accelerate more speed and stuff. So of course it's different, but the most important thing, and that is what my dad taught me all the time, is to work on perfection and to work really precise on your skills, to have a great execution. I remember, Dave, you were one of the guys who had a great executions most of the times. Not always the biggest D score, the biggest difficulty, but a really good execution. And that is what my philosophy in gymnastics still is. Especially, I would love to get back to the 10-0 score system, you know, because there it was more about perfection, not about like kind of circus. I remember at Worlds in 2013, I got second again behind the Dutchman, and the former FIG president, Bruno Grandi, he came over to me and he said, he was Italian, and like the Italian slang, he was like, Fabi, you are the real campione, you're the real champion. What you do, this is real gymnastics, not circus. So that's what he said, and that's the point. I think it's a lot of just circus, just going higher, doing more flips,
right.
having new records and whatever, and they don't focus anymore on the execution and the perfection. What is the reputation of gymnastics? The perfect 10. So
right.
That's what I'm missing a lot, and I would love to see the 10-0 back in gymnastics.
Yeah, I think that's that's exactly the way that I view gymnastics too. About it's art, it's artistic. It needs to be done where when someone watches it, they say that looks effortless. You know what I mean? Like you make the impossible look possible because you do it so flawlessly and so effortlessly. And to me, having had some Russian coaches and Japanese coaches, I love the style. You mentioned Nemov, you mentioned Cherbo, their style, the way they made things look so beautiful. And then the Japanese as well, to me, the way that everything they do is with purpose. It's purpose and intention. I do this because it's meant to be done exactly this particular way. Now, you're also right that the sport has turned into a bit of a circus in terms of the moves that are being done. Like, I don't know how you feel, but what I'm seeing guys do now on Instagram and getting ready for the games this summer, I'm like so happy I'm not doing the sport anymore. Like I have no interest in doing what they're doing. It's just crazy where they've taken the sport. Do you see that same thing now where it's just like almost getting to the point of like, how do you even keep up with what some of these guys are doing?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I remember when I stopped competing in the end of 2017, I didn't stop training. I still went to the gym because I was like, yeah, I want to try out some new skills.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because it got crazier and crazier all the time and more difficult. So I started to work on different skills, and I felt like, okay, I'm at my limit. I cannot do more. And then you see some guys like you mentioned, the Japanese, who are doing more and more difficult releases on high bar, which is just insane. I don't know how they do this, but I think they start to work in a completely different way than we did, because we, at the end, you have to say this, we lost a lot of time, or we wasted a lot of time for a really good technique and for the perfection and for the artistic part of gymnastics. And these guys, I think they play around much more, don't care about execution at the beginning, just trying to flip around and trying to make these new skills working out. So I think they work in a completely different way, and it's just crazy how gymnastics developed in the last years. And I couldn't imagine to do these things, but at the same time, when I see they doing the craziest stuff on floor, I think I could have done this as well if I had a better strength training for my legs. So that's what I think now when I got into CrossFit and saw how my legs got stronger and stronger. So I think with a different part of training or a different strengthening, I could have done very good on floor and vault compared to the guys what they are doing now.
Yeah, I'm really trying to relate to what you guys are saying here, because what it sounds like is with what like the Japanese are doing and the way that they train and they're brought up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like they are skipping some basics or some things that you guys would consider as basics. Like for me, when I watch so many of our top athletes, weightlifters in the country right now, and even internationally, but specifically the US, because CrossFit has brought so many more athletes into our sport. We have so many athletes that are so talented that they're able to overlook a few very key basics. And I watch them all the time, and they're missing these components in their training and then their movement. And it just makes me more amazed that they're lifting the weights that they are, but they're lifting those weights and they're on top of the world because they're so talented. For me, for example, if I would have skipped these few basics that I'm talking about, I wouldn't have lifted anywhere near what I ended up doing. So would you guys say that that's what you guys are saying? They're skipping over some basics?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I stayed pretty healthy during my career, and that was the reason because of my good technique. And you see so many young, talented guys who had, strong youth and just made it to the seniors, and they get injured really fast, or they just have like 2 or 3 good years. So I was successful over almost 15 years. So that was just, in my opinion, it was just because I had a really good technique and my body could handle this hard impact in gymnastics. And if we, like Dave and me, if we would have done the basics with a bad technique, our coach would have killed us, I guess. But right now they just watch at the end, like at the product, what they make out of it. And that's kind of sad because it's not the real gymnastics technique, not this perfection I would like to see.
I would say this. I would say that, one, the Japanese in general, in my opinion, have always set the standard for technique. You know, I always looked at them as saying, I want to do gymnastics the way the Japanese do, because they do things with such precision. I think Fabian's mentioning some Japanese gymnasts who are doing incredible, release moves right now as an example, because they're the ones kind of doing some of these incredible movements. But as a whole, we're seeing that across the board, and it's more rules driven rather than athlete driven. Well, that's why Fabian's bringing up this idea of the 10.0, going back to a standard where you can achieve or go towards perfection, because we have an open-ended scoring system now where you can score a 14, a 15, a 16, and there's no end point. So you have athletes that are trying to work within the system that allows them and almost encourages them to do crazy skills. So it's saying you're better off having a difficulty score that's through the roof and focusing less on execution, because the rules allow for that. So it's not so much athlete driven, it's more rules driven. And if we can kind of make the change and say, we want to put more of an emphasis here on execution, longevity, technique, then the rules need to change, and the athletes will follow.
Yeah, I think so too. That's right. Or like my dad, when he was a gymnast, they had a bonus for elegance and for risk, going for risk, So there are so many different ways how to maybe make a change, in this system. But it's hard. I started to think about with a professor from my university how to change the scoring system again back to a 10-0, but we started with that, but we didn't make it yet. But we're still in progress. So hopefully there's still something in the tank to get back to this 10-0.
Yeah, I think it's cool just for listeners to appreciate. The scoring system in gymnastics is so complicated. Weightlifting, you put weight on the barbell, you know what that weight is. It's very easily judged. People know, and then you just move on, right? Gymnastics, it's incredibly complicated. The judges sometimes don't know what's going on. Everybody has their own opinion as to what's good, what's not. But one of the cool things that was in the past, you mentioned your dad competing under a different system. There was something called ROV, and you had risk that had certain number of bonus points associated with it. You had originality, which had bonus associated with it, and then virtuosity. So if you
exactly
risky movements, things that potentially were challenging enough to where it might lead to a mistake, that had a bonus associated with it. If you were original and creative in coming up with new movements, that had bonus. And then also if you were virtuous with it, meaning if you did it so well, better than anyone else who was doing that movement, it also had bonuses associated with it. So it was this idea of doing creative, yes, doing it beautifully, and also being risky. And it seems like it shifted so much. It's just R now. Be risky. Be risky. That's the sport right now. And just like throw these crazy skills, and the originality and the virtuosity have kind of got out the window a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about exactly. And maybe to get back these 3 different points you mentioned,
yeah, it could be cool.
Could make a difference. And well, yeah, there are a lot of ideas going around, but maybe we can make it to tell the the people who has to decide that that there's a way to get back to this, because these guys at the FIG, they're still like the old generation, like Steve Butcher, you know him very well. They all love the 10-0, and I think they would appreciate if we find out a way to get back to this. But yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not at all. But we'll see how the sport continues to grow. That's for sure. Well, CrossFit, what it's done, it's given us the ability to bring gymnastics to more people in the same way that, Chad has now been able to bring weightlifting to people that, a decade ago couldn't care less about what, kilo transition into pounds looked like. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now we have people doing gymnastics and want to do handstands all over the world that didn't grow up with the sport. Are you seeing that interest in gymnastics in Germany now too, from the CrossFit world? Do you have people come up to you saying, hey, I know that you're an amazing gymnast, you're a celebrity in Germany from your gymnastics career, tips on a handstand, tips on a muscle up. Are you seeing kind of interest in gymnastics grow because of CrossFit?
Yeah, every day. That's pretty funny. Always in the CrossFit box when we're training together, and we have like muscle ups or handstand push-ups or whatever, and they always ask me for this one tip, how to make it. This one tip, this. Yeah, this is like always like, okay, let me think about this. This one advice. But most of the time, it is like just these little things help them a lot, which we know from gymnastics, which no CrossFit coach usually knows. Just like how to have your head in the right position during the handstand, how to put your hands on the floor, what to think about during the handstand and whatever. So that helps a lot to get better in the gymnastics skills in CrossFit, and it's fun, and I like a lot to teach them a little bit of gymnastics, but still, like, I mean, handstand is like the same technique like in gymnastics. You don't have to do it in a different way, but like for muscle ups or ring muscle ups, it's sometimes a little bit different in CrossFit. If you do like a real kip on bars, it would be a no rep for muscle up in CrossFit. So you have to change that a little bit, but the basics are the same. So and that's always really nice to help out the CrossFit athletes.
Yeah, don't get me started on no repping of bar muscle ups. We did a whole we did a whole podcast just on that.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't say that.
Fabian, we're getting close to the end here, and before I have a couple questions for you. One, do you have any prediction for the Open workout? Any ideas of what you think is going to happen, or anything that you would like to see? I know you're not participating in this year, but anything that you would like to see come out in the Open this year?
I mean, I'm not into CrossFit that long, but I followed the Open last year, and I mean, I loved like this handstand hold and whatever.
Oh yeah.
These different gymnastics parts. So I hope that there will be also some gymnastic skills into the Open workouts, like handstand walks and a lot of muscle ups and whatever. But I really do love snatching. So that's what worked out the best in weightlifting for me. I had a snatch of 77 kilograms. I don't know what it is in pounds again, like 100.
That's about
maybe
170 pounds. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that was really cool. So I would love to see a 1 rep max of just a snatch. So that would be
like that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening with the Open this week. I'm hoping for no barbell work. If there is some kind of weight involved, I'd like it to be a dumbbell or anything under 135 pounds. That's
what's the workout with muscle ups and snatches? It sounds like that'd be right up Fabian's alley right there.
Oh yeah, this is is it Amanda? Is it called Amanda?
It's Amanda. Yeah.
Is it Amanda?
Oh. Yeah, I think
so. Exactly.
Chad, remember we did Amanda?
Yes.
Chad and I went to Kuala Lumpur, like, I don't even know how many years ago now.
2013, I think.
2013, oh my God. And we did Amanda tag team against 2 other guys. but I only did the muscle ups and you only did the snatches.
Kind of unfair, but
I think we probably still lost. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave.
It's possible that we did.
Crazy.
That's my kind of Amanda right there.
That's awesome.
Barbell, I'll get on the rings.
Yep.
Fabian, okay, another couple quick questions here. This one's a formality, being with your background.
Just skip it.
Favorite sport or discipline, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics for sure, man.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I gotta say, I'm just happy that he, threw snatch out there, that he's enjoying snatch so much, and I hope, Fabian, if you can open up that front rack a little bit, you'll next time I talk to you, you'll like cleans and jerks as well.
Yeah, my snatch is better than my clean and jerk right now. Yep. So that's what we have to change.
I have never mentioned a weightlifting movement as one of my favorite things to do. Even though I enjoy it, my goodness, my legs just not agree with the getting underneath the barbell of any weight.
Well, I got to say, within a CrossFit workout, snatches and clean and jerks are some of my most unfavorite things. I do not enjoy doing them inside of a CrossFit workout, especially low weight, high repetition.
Yeah, I prefer that. I'll take that. What was it? 20.1, Chad? 20.1? I put up a picture of it yesterday.
20.1, yeah.
It was burpees and shoulder overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
Question number 2, Fabian. Is there any guest that you think would be great for our podcast? Anybody that you'd like to see interviewed by us?
Well, that's hard for me because usually you have, I don't know if you ever had a non-US guy, or am I the first one right now? I don't know if you could go look for other gymnasts from different countries.
I think that'd be cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like my friend from the Netherlands, Epke Zonderland.
Oh, yeah.
He also has a great story, and he's going for his next Olympics. He also was in Beijing in the high bar final. He was in London in the high bar final, in Rio. So nice. He's the guy. Maybe he could be on this podcast as well, I guess.
Would love it. We'd love to get Epke on. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Well, I mean, I'm up for that, but that's just another gymnast on here that we have.
I think you're gonna have to start working on the booking of the guests, Chad. I mean, there's only so much I can do here.
Well, I mean,
put it in my hands.
There's only very few international weightlifters we can get on here that haven't been popped for drugs. So that's the issue. That's the issue with that. But yeah, all good. My goal is to get the gymnasts that are on here, or the people on here that pick gymnastics, to like weightlifting at least a little bit more. That's my goal.
I think it starts with coming to camp. It starts with coming to camp, because we've had a few of those transition. I mean, a Jake and a Steve are great examples of guys, cool. and Steve and Steven Gluckstein too.
Yep.
You know, who's coming.
Oh yeah, he's competed. He's definitely done a handful of competitions for weightlifting.
So it is possible.
Oh, good. Well, a couple more questions here, Fabian. Any books that you've come across here recently that you'd recommend to our listeners?
I'm not this big reader, honestly. I don't read a lot. Last time I read a book, but I don't know what's the title in English at the end. It's called, in German, it's like a cafe at the end of the world. It's like a mental thing a little bit, to think about why we live, or why are you living, and what are you living for? Because many people are just working for money, just looking for business, and not looking for what they really love to do. And sometimes if you really do what you love, you're more successful than ever. So that's like just in short, it's just the main thing in this book, I guess. So it's pretty good, and it helped me, like, after my injury now, to get my mind pretty clean, and just think about different things in life.
Awesome. That's definitely the kind of book that we're looking for there, and a good recommendation. Another good recommendation for the listeners. Hey, man, it was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit here, Fabian. Hopefully we can have you back on. Hopefully I'll meet you in person at some point at camp. I'm gonna have Dave keep continuing to push you on that. until you get over there. But do you have any parting words for our listeners? Anything coming up you'd like folks to know about?
Well, it's almost like the same I said about the book, that I mean, I worked so many years with my mental coach, and what I really learned is that we waste so much time about thinking about things we cannot change.
Yep.
And that's a main thing. You should save your energy for things you really have in your hands, which you really can influence. And you should more and more listen to your heart sometimes, and not just looking for money or different things to achieve. Sometimes it's just easier to find the right answer when you just listen to yourself. And that's the thing I'm doing all the time, and trying to figure out what my future is about. Because I mean, I was just living for gymnastics all the time, and when I retired, I was like, okay, damn, what's the plan for your future? I didn't know what to do. And in the last 3 to 4 years, I started to think, especially that way I mentioned, and it helped me to get back on the right way, and to know what my future is about, and what my profession should be. So that helped me a lot to listen to my body and not wasting energy and time for things I cannot change.
That's great advice. Absolutely. And probably just about every single, high performer or very successful individual I've ever heard say anything about that. They talk about in some way focusing on the things you can control and, pushing everything else to the side. Don't dwell on the things that you can't change, that you can't control. So I think that's a good closing lesson for us all to be reminded of. And guys, as always, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also, check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.